This is just a quick introduction to what you're going to be doing this week. It's all about applications of all these electric and magnetic fields that you've been doing for the last few weeks. The first one is Milken's experiment, and you've done that just last week. And so that's just a summary that, remember, it was to do with a constant electric field and ionized oil droplets were suspended. And the key thing here is that you've got F equals QE, balancing the weight. So that's a key bit of physics there, but you probably know that from last week. The oscilloscope, again, you've got two bits of physics there. You've got the energy conservation that QV is equal to half mv squared, and F equals QE is going to give you the acceleration there in between those deflection plates. Another thing is that once it leaves those deflection plates, then Newton's first law kicks in, and so it just continues at constant speed and direction, and that's where it actually hits the screen there. Okay. Now, the cyclotron is the first application that you're going to be revisiting from higher. That was one of the first ever cyclotrons there. You can see that the key thing here is the circular electromagnets, the D shapes, and that's what it looks like these days. That's a medical particle accelerator for proton beam therapy. Inside you can see that there are coils of wire and the D shapes. The magnetic field's got two electromagnets there. They've got a magnetic field which is perpendicular to the two Ds there with the gap between them. And you've got a high frequency AC source of electricity, and that gives you this electric field across the gaps in the cyclotron. So top and bottom electromagnet, perpendicular magnetic field, side to side here you've got alternating electric field. And so you'll be having a look at this in a moment, but it really just sends the charged particles, which are generally protons, round and round, and they get further and further out and then finally escape to the target. The reason that you need the alternating current is it's a square wave there which alternates the electric field between the two, so that the proton goes from positive to negative that way and then positive to negative that way, and you only get that if you change the direction of the electric field, which requires an alternating. There's a model there which you can watch later using the slides, but the key things are that it's the electric field that accelerates the protons. It's got to be alternating because it's got to go from side to side. The magnetic field is what keeps the protons in a circular motion, and the time, as you'll find out later on, is a constant time, and then it escapes to a target from the accelerator once the radius is large enough. Synchrotrons are slightly different in that they just keep going round and round at the same radius, but the two fields are the same idea, that you've got to have magnetic fields to change the direction and electric fields to accelerate. So you've got all sorts of things here like wigglers and undulators, but what you need to know is really just that it's the electric and magnetic fields. Next application is Rutherford's alpha scattering experiment. So here you have an alpha source going into some gold foil. You may have done this as higher or you might not. It depends. Sometimes we cover it, sometimes we don't. And then different angles were measured here for the emissions from the alpha particles. So the alpha particles went into the gold foil. Some went just deflected, some went one to the side, and a very few actually came backwards. So these were actually counted as scintillations. It showed that the atom was actually a positive nucleus in the middle there, very small. Most of it was empty space, and therefore most of the alpha particles just actually went straight through the middle of the atoms, and very few were actually turned back. But what you may be asked at advanced higher is what happens if an alpha particle does come back because of conservation of energy. So the energy it's got going in is a kinetic energy, half mv squared, and then that achieves a potential energy QV. So you can pause the video here to try this calculation here. So you've got the speed of the alpha particle coming in there, you've got the charge on an electron that you need to know, and you've got the mass that you need to know. Obviously an alpha particle has got double the electron charge positive, and you've got permittivity of free space epsilon naught given there. So just pause it and see how you get on with that calculation. How did you get on? You should have got 3.8 times 10 to the minus 12 meters. The other one is something called the specific charge, which is a charge per unit mass for an electron. So Milken found out that electrons came in particular quantities of the fundamental charge of an electron, 1.6 times 10 to the minus 19 coulombs. Thomson then took this a little bit further and came up with the idea that you could actually work out what the ratio of charge to mass was. He had a cathode ray tube, very similar to the oscilloscope, and it accelerates electron beams there. If you've got either electric field or magnetic field, that will deflect the electron beam. The electric field is vertical here, the magnetic field is side to side. Both of those will deflect an electron beam either upwards or downwards. The clever thing here was that the two crossed fields were set so that the electron beam actually came out undeflected, and therefore the two forces, the electric force and the magnetic force, were equal and opposite on the electron beam, and that allowed them to calculate E over m. So you're going to get the chance to find out how that was done and get a value for E over m with a simulation later. Finally, mass spectrometers are very useful for measuring the mass to charge ratio of ions, and that involves sending them through a velocity selector to make sure you just get particular charged particles going at just the right velocity, which then go into this magnetic field, and it's the radius of this which can give you the charge to mass ratio, the mass to charge ratio. So again, you're going to be doing a simulation and a calculation on mass spectrometers. All of these, apart from Milken's, are not specifically mentioned in the advanced higher syllabus, but they're excellent practice at problem solving and really good consolidation of what you've been doing with electric and magnetic fields. So I think you'll find some of it quite interesting and hopefully very useful, but not too many calculations.